All right, well, welcome everybody to this product training webinar. We have Rebecca Major here. She's the manager of Pharmanex Research and Development, Communication, and Education. She's been with the company for 8 years. She's got a degree in neuroscience from BYU, and we're going to be going over G3, a superfruit product guaranteed to improve antioxidant levels with the biophotonic scanner. It tastes great. I just got 6 boxes of the pouches, just arrived today. And what we like to do is give them to the kids. It's great for children. We actually even freeze it and the little pouches, and then we kind of smash it up and then give it to them as popsicles. Right, and they absolutely love it. It's a great thing here in Florida to keep ourselves cool and healthy. So, Rebecca, thanks for joining us here for this webinar.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. So before I start talking about G3, I just wanted to mention why I love working with Pharmanex so much. And that is primarily because Pharmanex is a science-oriented company. We employ 75 scientists around the globe to help work on products, and we place a big emphasis on science-backed products and quality. So it just makes it really, really easy to be passionate about sharing why these products are excellent. So with that, let's jump right in. G3 is our superfruit juice. It's a superfruit juice primarily because it is very high in antioxidants, particularly carotenoids. And the unique thing about these carotenoids is we call them lipocarotenes because they're naturally present in a fatty acid matrix from the fruit, which means they're highly bioavailable. Carotenoids provide powerful antioxidant protection in the body, which is going to have a lot of benefits overall, one of which is immune function, but we'll talk about more later. So let's talk about how we actually formulated G3 to give you a little bit of background. Our scientists started by searching the world and finding different superfruits, and we actually evaluated over hundreds of different superfruits from around the world and tried to find which ones were the best. So we kind of narrowed it down to some specific characteristics that we were looking for. The first is we wanted fruits that had extraordinary antioxidant efficacy. So we wanted fruits that had a lot of antioxidants because we knew that's kind of the goal of a juice. We didn't want a juice that didn't do anything. We also wanted fruits that had a lot of nutritional content and that were well studied in the scientific literature for their efficacy. And of course, safety is always going to be a big piece in how we formulate, so that's kind of a given. Now, there are some fruits that meet this criteria, like blueberries, that are fantastic fruits, but they don't really have a sort of pizzazz or zing that would make it interesting to talk about. And so we also wanted to have fruits that had a history of traditional folklore usage and that were unique or, just different. So it turns out only 4 fruits met this criteria, and those 4 fruits are gac fruit, Siberian pineapple, Chinese lycium, which is also known as goji berry, and sealy fruit. So together, these 4 fruits combine to make G3. Gac is actually the main fruit in this juice, and the other 3 are more supportive, and that's where the name actually comes from. G for gac, 3 for 3 other fruits. So we're going to talk about gac first. Gac is scientifically called Momordica cochinchinensis, which is a bit of a mouthful. It's native to Southeast Asia, particularly Vietnam, and it's similar to a pumpkin a little bit in that it's a sweet gourd fruit, and it's referred to as the fruit from heaven, which we'll talk about here. The reason why is because in Vietnam and in Southern Asia, the rural population grows gac fruit on lattices over the entrances of their homes, so they can walk out the door when it's ready to harvest and reach up and pluck it from the vine. It's traditionally used quite a lot in Vietnamese culture, used to prepare a particular rice dish known as xôi gac or red rice, which is served at weddings and New Year celebrations and other events like that. Its color is from the gac, obviously, that's where the red comes from, and it's associated with good luck and happiness. So it's quite a big part of their culture. It was also traditionally used both internally and externally, and both as a food and as a medicine. In fact, a lot of the more rural population would use it as a source of vitamin A. It contains beta carotene, which is a precursor for vitamin A. They would give it to their children to help with eye health because vitamin A deficiency can cause some pretty severe vision problems. So Fun little backstory there. So when you actually break open the GAC fruit, what you see inside are these large seeds that are surrounded by a deep red pulp. And that red pulp is actually what we're using in the G3, not the rind. It is deep red because it's rich in two carotenoids, beta carotene and lycopene, which is what gives it that deep color. And the really unique and interesting thing about GAC is that it's delivering those carotenoids in lipocarotene form. So briefly mentioned that earlier, but essentially GAC naturally has fatty acids present in the pulp, and those carotenoids are pre-dissolved in that fatty acid matrix. And that enables efficient absorption of those carotenoids and enhances its bioavailability. Carotenoids, as you may know already, are fat-soluble molecules, so they tend to clump up in the digestive tract on their own because there's a lot of water in the digestive tract. And so if you can dissolve them and help break those clumps up, then you're going to get better absorption overall. And in fact, there's quite a bit of research on carotenoids in general and their bioavailability with or without a fat source. So there's studies showing that if you eat tomato sauce, which is a source of lycopene by itself, then you'll get some absorption of the lycopene, but if you eat it with olive oil, you'll get better absorption. So we would expect similar results with the GAC fruit since those carotenoids are being provided with the the fatty acids, and that is in fact what the research shows. So here, this study on the left shows it's a third-party study done on synthetic beta carotene versus GAC fruit, measuring plasma beta carotene levels in the blood. And it found 40% greater absorption of that beta carotene with the GAC fruit compared to the synthetic beta carotene. And then we've also done our own study on using the scanner, measuring changes in scanner score with G3 lipocarotenes as compared to traditional carotenoids, and found a 55% increase in scanner score with that comparison as well. Not just any GAC fruit makes it into our G3. We actually go to great lengths to make sure we are getting the highest quality of GAC fruit to ensure that the G3 is the best quality possible. So we actually go through a strict selection process to make sure that we're getting only good quality GAC. We look at the weight of the fruit. You can see on the left here, the fruit that's being weighed has a deep red colored skin, indicating that it's ripe. That's going to play a big role in the carotenoid content of the pulp inside. We make sure that the pulp is that deep red color and is juicy and healthy looking. And when you compare it to the bad, it's pretty obvious what the difference is. The bad is dry and stringy and not vibrantly colored at all. So we make sure and pick the fruit at the proper time because a lot of those factors have to do with when the fruit is picked and how ripe it is at the point of picking. If the GAC fruit doesn't meet our standards, we don't use it. And we also test the raw material for its carotenoid content to ensure that it's consistently meeting our specifications.
Rebecca, I grew GAC in my backyard here in Florida. It grew really well, but I could not get it to ripen well. It was white inside. It was very difficult to get red. I couldn't figure out why, but yeah, it's neat to see the differences there because if it's white, it doesn't have those carotenoids in it.
Exactly. And in fact, if you pick it too early, it can make a giant difference, not only visually, but like from too early to perfectly ripe can be as much as 15 to 20 times more carotenoids in the GAC pulp. So it makes a big difference. We actually work closely with a company of GAC growers that have a lot of GAC fields in Vietnam to make sure that we're getting the best of the best because they know what they're doing. They've been doing it for a very long time. Let's touch briefly on the other three fruits in G3. The Siberian pineapple is also known as sea buckthorn. It has a long history of use throughout Asia and Europe. It's actually native to specific parts of Europe. And the berries are rich in vitamins and are also a source of fatty acids similar to the GAC. In fact, sea buckthorn oil is used both internally and topically for a variety of different things. Chinese lycium is the second one. It's known as wolfberry or goji berry. primarily grown in China. It's been used for over 2,000 years in traditional Chinese medicine, and it's also rich in both antioxidants and also vitamins. And lastly, we have the sealy fruit, which is often referred to as the king of C because it's high vitamin C content. It's actually a type of rose hip from a specific type of rose grown in China. I don't know if you've ever grown roses, but once the flower dies, then the fruit is underneath, and that's what's called the rose hip. So you don't typically think of roses as producing fruit, but they do, and that's what rose hips are. Okay, we also have a clinical study on G3. This is one we conducted ourselves. It was using the scanner looking at G3 compared to 2 different competitor juices. And I'm not allowed to name who those competitors are for legal reasons, but as you can see here on this graph, they did not perform very well. So the study looked at skin carotenoid scores over 8 weeks, and you can see that the G3 results were statistically significant starting at week 4. That's both compared to baseline as well as compared to the other juices. In addition to that clinical study, we also have a third-party study that another group of researchers did on G3 in children in particular. They looked at children ages 5 to 17. Stephen mentioned earlier that G3 is excellent for kids, and that is absolutely true, and it has been studied as well. So in this study, they gave children either a low dose of G3, a high dose of G3, or a placebo. The low dose was 1 to 2 ounces. The high dose was 2 to 4 ounces, depending on weight. And then they gave it to them for 8 weeks. And you can see on this graph here, the high dose is the highest line that's solid, and the lower dose is the dotted line. And both of them raised SAN score quite significantly over that time frame of 8 weeks. So just to put it into comparison, those children were drinking 1 to 4 ounces essentially of G3 per day. We do generally recommend 2 to 6 ounces per day, and anywhere in that ballpark will raise their SCAN score. So really cool study, really good results. So as you can probably guess, most of the benefits from G3 are stemming from its antioxidant properties. It does have a very high carotenoid content consistent with its deep red color, and that's going to have a lot of benefits throughout the body. So first and foremost, it's protecting against free radical damage in the cells. And along with that, that's going to help protect DNA from oxidative stress as well. So those are the 2 biggest benefits, but along with that, a stronger antioxidant network is going to be linked with better immune health. So there's going to be immune component here as well. And then the presence of lycopene and beta carotene are going to help support healthy skin and eyes. And lycopene in particular is going to have a lot of prostate health benefits too. So again, all of these benefits really tie back to the naturally occurring antioxidants found in G3. And just to wrap things up, G3 is great for the whole family, kids, adults alike. As soon as children are old enough to drink juice, they can start drinking G3. Parents might want to dilute it at first, depending on their preferences, but it is safe to take as soon as they're old enough to drink juice. And it is wonderful for anyone who needs to increase their servings of fruit and vegetables. As we all know, we don't have perfect diets, even with our best efforts, and G3 is a nice way to help fill those nutritional gaps. And it's also great for people who are wanting to boost their antioxidant network or who are just in situations where they have a lot of free radical damage. Maybe they're outside a lot, maybe they're traveling a lot, maybe they're just under a lot of stress. Any of those cases, G3 is going to be a great choice.
Thanks, Rebecca, so much for being on here. And thanks, everybody. And thanks, everybody that joined us. If you're new here learning about the products, feel free to reach out to the person that invited you onto this webinar. And we'll look forward to meeting you. Take care. Bye-bye.